Welcome to the Alan Turing stage at Cognition X. As I was saying before, the festival atmosphere is live and well here today. I'm introducing a range of extraordinary speakers and thinkers today. And the first one is my boss, Adrian Smith. He's a Bayesian statistician. He's the scientific leadership and the strategic leadership of the Alan Turing Institute. Our Institute Director and Chief Executive, Adrian Smith.
Well, I was going to say a warm good morning from me, but that's totally inappropriate. It's a pleasure to be here, even if briefly, to introduce this first session in our Alan Turing stage. Many of you will know, of course, need no prompting as to why the name Turing is important in the world we're all in these days. His paper in 1950, Can Machines Think?, it really has kicked off a whole enterprise. So what I'm going to do just briefly is introduce the Turing Institute as a bit of background. The Alan Turing Institute, the next is working. Yes, good. Okay. So what is the Institute? The Institute is roughly 3 years old. It was invested in by government after a prompt from the great and the good in our Council for Science and Technology, who said, okay, we've always had data, we've always mucked around with data, we've always tried to get insights and solve problems using data, but something has changed. Just the scale of data, the scale of the computational power opens up totally different possibilities of doing clever things to make money or for the public good. And so, in some sense, the Turing Institute has been invested in as a national, if you like, almost thought leadership institute. There are enormous problems thrown up, challenges thrown up by this world, and the good guys later are going to discuss some of the really tricky ones in that arena. What I'm just going to do for the moment is just say a little bit more about the background of Turing. Essentially, we're a brokering, convening network, bringing together people from industry, charities, governments, and importantly, our 13 university partners who provide us with over 300 Turing Fellows who constitute, if you like, the academic power that we can throw at major challenges. From a government point of view, this is the sort of go-to place for advice and networking. And our goals, we have a variety of goals, but essentially they are leadership type goals. How do we convene our academic brainpower in the UK to innovate development, stay at the frontier of world-class research, which is an absolute prerequisite really for everything else. But if we just stood around proving theorems, that wouldn't really, do the business. So we do have to identify what are the real-world problems, the big challenges that we can throw our brain power at to try and make the world a better place. But the scale of problems, the scale of activity is such, if we really believe in this stuff, then for sure we don't have enough people who get it. And get it at all sorts of levels. Get it even at the level of awareness of what all this stuff is about, right down to the level of being able to do the mathematics or the coding or whatever. So we need education and training at scale and awareness of a whole host of people. And part of our other goal, clearly, at the end of the day, a lot of things that turn into public social good come through policy, they come through government actions, and so on. So staying close to policymakers is important. The big fear, I guess, that many of us would have is that all this could go really pear-shaped, could go wrong in the way that GM crops and MMR vaccines went wrong. If the public suddenly thinks that killer robots are going to take over the world and algorithms are evil, we're in trouble. So trying to manage the public conversation in a sensible way is seriously part of what we're about. In terms of our networks, we've got partners and collaborators, as you can see, from across almost all areas of national life and business. What are the challenges? Well, we all know the infinite. It's to boil the ocean, but we focus. One of the things, a big program in the UK, we have a unique opportunity through National Health Service and the data that flows around that. Let's try and revolutionize healthcare in the UK. Engineering, the changes in the way that infrastructure works, autonomous vehicles, sensors, a whole world there is being transformed. How can we broker and coordinate and deliver safer and smarter engineering? And security, obviously defense and security, fundamentally important, and arenas in which the stuff that we're in is hugely important. And the economy. Traditionally, governments have understood the economy by having national offices of statistics who perhaps once a month or once every 3 months give you a set of numbers which purport to tell you how the world is working. But the world is working every microsecond, and so the amount of data that would really give you insight into what's happening in the economy, what's happening in consumers' heads, investors' heads, etc., we have the opportunity to revolutionize our understanding. Top left, really important and a lead-in a sense to what's to come. We really do have to care about transparency and fairness and bias, and if we don't get on top of these kind of issues, we would be in danger of the GM crop MMR counter reaction. So that's important, something maybe not just for the immediate moment today, but of course, going back to the beginning, as I said, what's changed the world is not just the data, but the computing power. Well, the computing power itself is evolving. The architectures that are appropriate for machine learning may not be the same architectures as for crunching the weather equations. So we have to think hard about that. And of course, the whole business of academia and research is itself transformed. I used to fund colleagues when I ran a university. I used to give them a small sum of money to go off to a library in Spain and pretend to sit at a desk and compare manuscripts. If you digitize those manuscripts, their summer holidays are done. So, you know, research is being transformed. And of course, the processes of government. Policies, people go on journeys. They go on journeys in justice systems. They go on journeys in health systems. How can we see if we can transform government processes, government policies? The capabilities we need to do this, obviously, the stuff we all know in terms of statistics, mathematical modeling, but a key, and I pause on these last two things, understanding human behavior becomes really fundamental again. Back in the days, there were computers, and then suddenly psychologists got involved in human-computer interface. We're now in a different kind of interface in spades. Human interface with data science and AI is fundamentally important. And going back to the challenges of the ethics and the fairnesses and the biases is absolutely fundamental. So I think that was my last slide and the end of my introduction. I hope the roof doesn't leak and fall in on everybody, but what we're about to discuss here is of absolute fundamental importance, and I'm glad to see so many people here and even more watching at a distance. So from me, welcome to the Turing stage.